Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see it myself, see if something new does go on. I don't remember the exact stat, but I think they were saying something like over 80% of the lineups had Druid and Warrior in it. And yeah, that's like, I think once they got to like, I think the top 32 or something like that, like once they got to the decks that were actually winning and winning more, that it's something about like the top, it was like over 50%. It was like something like 60, 70, 80% were Druid and Warrior. And that might be a problem. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting for the mulligan. There we go. Yeah, this hand is not a good one here for the mirror match. He's got 2 Wraths and a Force of Nature. You need to pick up some cards here early. Now, he does have... Now, 1 Wrath is okay. You know, if your opponent has a Darnassus hand, you can kind of keep up with them in mana by killing their Darnassus before they get to use their extra mana. But having the 2nd Wrath here in the Force of Nature, this is going to make this game be a long one for him. He's going to need a lot of good draws to stay in this one.
Job's done.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, good for him that he's actually going to coin out the Darnassus here, because it gives him actually a solid play on 2. I've seen a lot of times in the mirror of Druid when one player on turn 2 just hero powers and attacks, that it usually just means the game is actually over for that player, because the other one is just so far ahead if they have mana acceleration. And this gives him at least something to do. Now, he did pick up a Doctor Boom, so if he picks up something like Innervade or Wild Growth along the way, maybe he can keep himself in this game. Yeah, and crimzig, you know, he's not going to come out firing too fast yet. You know, with this Darnassus being done, he's going to maybe wait till turn 3 to have a curve started here. Maybe looking to play, you know, Azure Drake here on turn 3 to pick up an extra card. Because it's the flexibility of Druid with the claw in his hand for, you know, just deeming exactly what he needs in the right situation.
I don't know. I think I would lead off with Druid of the claw. The pilotage better or swipe or something coming down on turn 4 can contest the Drake just too strong. So I like just the better body, but I mean, I could definitely see the merits of the Drake as well, since your follow-up to this is what? All you have is swipe to try and clear something, so it's not the greatest follow-up.
Yeah, but, now his curve is getting kind of a tiny bit awkward. Like if he uses the Innervate this turn, he goes to 5 mana, but then next turn he's going to be, you know, most likely floating a mana. If he does something like Shade of Nexramas, you know, he won't be using all 4 unless he uses something like Swipe. But then he has, you know, pretty good perk behind that with Azure Drake and Boom, so...
Yeah, you see that Dr. Boom in your hand, and you got that Innervate, and he has Shade that you can play on curve. It's so tempting just to kind of wait for that Dr. Boom, but it's also very greedy, and stakes are high, so it's not good to be too greedy.
Yeah, I definitely like the playing of the Druid of the Claw here. It's definitely like way more consistent, and it gives you way more playability over the next couple turns instead of just waiting to go all in on Dr. Boom.
Definitely, for sure. Especially if like a big game hunter or something comes out, that could really leave you exposed, and you're the one with the Innervate, so you want to just take your advantage while you got it instead of possibly losing a game. It should be pretty shored up just because of the draw and the way things went.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking great for him here, but let's see what voeffrey can get back in here. I mean, he picks up an Azure Drake. That was not a bad draw from here. You know, if he wants to, he can play it, get an extra card. Being contested immediately by the Druid of the Claw on the other side of the board, though.
But now he's gonna be able to, I guess, keep or get rid of the board, help clear it and stuff.
Yeah, how do you like this play instead of developing an Azure Drake? Do you feel that this is better, just to take care of the Druid of the Claw on the other side?
I think in the Druid matchup, you kind of got to start getting rid of things. If you let things keep accumulating, keep building up, whatnot, you're gonna be just taking too much damage too quick, and a Savage Roar off of crimzig side could just kill you at that point because you take too much chip damage. So I kind of like playing defensively. He's got Boom in his hand. I feel like he's trying to lead towards that as his way to come back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the way his hand is tailored out, you know, he has this Force of Nature and Wrath that he can use as spells. He has the second Keeper of the Grove. Probably just going to, as you said, look to get the best turn 7 board possible for him to play a Dr. Boom and then hope to lean on that to win the game. Because, you know, he knew he was behind from the start. You know, his opening hand was bad and his opponent could get to, you know, innervate out a Druid with a Claw very quickly.
Well, now what do you do here? Like, if he continues with this line trying to set up for the Doctor Boom, he may even be like trying to force clear here so that he has initiative on the board when Doctor Boom comes down. But your opponent just played a Drake, which isn't too big of a development play. Maybe you can get away with just developing your own Drake. He can also actually clear the opponent's Drake, so we can see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, if he just runs both his minions in here and then develops a Drake behind, maybe he thinks he could price in a crimzig to trade off his Shade here and try to, you know, develop, hope that crimzig needs to develop his board behind this. But, I mean, the way this game is going out, he's actually going to be the first one to the board with a Doctor Boom. So as long as the game hasn't gotten away from him too much here, he's going to run this. There we go. I was going to say he's going to trade off. He's going to use his Stable Goal to protect his minions behind here, making sure he still has some minions on the board here.
Alright, so it's a pretty threatening board from Druid. Just any amount of minions on the board that you look down as Druid, you got to be kind of afraid of, because that Savage Roar card is just so powerful when things are around. So looking at crimzig's side, he doesn't have too great of plays. Azure Drake into Azure Drake is just always so weak because you're really paying a lot for that card draw, and this matchup is more about just being ahead on board than actually drawing more cards.
Yeah, this matchup is all about, you know, board presence and then trying to get those big swings from Savage Roars and even combo. I mean, in this matchup, you don't even need to have the combo together. If you ever get to, you know, keep multiple minions on the board, or God forbid you get to keep a Doctor Boom and both its bots on the board, both the boom bots, you can deal immense amounts of damage to Savage Roar without Force of Nature. So yeah, as you said, it's all about board presence here, and voeffrey's about to get a pretty big one here this turn. But there is a big game hunter in crimzig's hand to turn this game around, and he's actually gonna cycle a Wrath here. I like this play.
Yeah, he's taking the defensive play, just making sure he kills that Shade. He's afraid of maybe innervate combo sort of plays too, and just playing slow. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too, and it's, you know, something to be said about when players get into top 8s, and there's a little bit of pressure, you know, when you get to the last couple of rounds of a tournament, especially one that's, you know, being broadcast. You have the world champion casting your match here, you know. It's a little maybe a little, not saying anything was wrong here. I'm saying, you know, players might play a little differently, you know, play a little more defensively because they're in such a big spot that they might not have been in before.
Sure. And being up at Azure Drake on your opponent is pretty good, so he must have felt like he was in a position where he could just snowball the board state from there. But from crimzig's side, he has the best 7-drop in the game on turn 7, arguably. Dr. Boom coming down, and with no big game hunter to answer, crimzig may be able to swing the tempo back in his favor.
Yeah, it's like always a big joke with us, you know, when it's turn 7 and Dr. Boom is green in your hand. Like, dude, it's so hard not to play that card. It's so hard not to play Dr. Boom on 7, but sometimes it's right, and I like this line. Yeah,
definitely. If you feel like you can't take the board back without playing it, you got to play it for sure, even though there is always that risk of big game hunter. So.
Yeah, the times I like it there, you know, it feel like more of like a desperation play to me. You know, you feel it's like I've lost board control in this game, and the only way that I can get back in this is by Dr. Boom here. You know, maybe some things go my way, and I, you know, get a lucky top deck of like Savage Roar, and I can maybe end the game that way. But he doesn't feel he needs to do that. His hand is very powerful. You know, he has a Dr. Boom, has an Ancient of War, he has a Druid Claw, so he can have this game go a few more turns.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, Boombots. Wow, the Boombot didn't kill Azure Drake. That's the first time I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah. Azure Drake is always, when there's a Boombot in play and an Azure Drake in play, that guy has a magnet for Boombots in 4. I have never seen an Azure Drake live through Boombots in my entire life.
Yeah, that's for sure. So now that the Dr. Boom's stuck, he's in a pretty solid position now from being behind. We're a little bit there in the mid game. So what do you do here as crimzig? He's got to deal with this Emperor for sure, but what's the best way to deal with it?
Yeah, like that's what I was wondering. You know, this turn, do you use Wrath just to clear out the Emperor, or do you get really fancy with, you know, Force of Nature and just try to lean on this Dr. Boom? Because, I mean, if voeffrey didn't kill it this turn,
wow, that Boombot, that's wow, that's gonna affect the game in a huge swing. He's just gonna go double minion behind this, put as much pressure on the board he can. Wow.
Yeah, and he's got a Force of Nature behind this, so.
Yeah, and there's no big game hunter here in response, so voeffrey's in a lot of trouble just on how the Dr. Boom went. He didn't have the big game hunter to answer the desperation play from crimzig, and the Boombots went in crimzig's favor just to snowball that Dr. Boom play by a lot.
Yeah, it's like we talked about. I mean, it was a turn late. There's a little bit of boombot lag here this turn. They just needed an extra turn to take care of the Azure Drake perfectly. So
Yep.
it didn't take 4, but it took 1 and then 3. So it ended up being perfect from the boombot there. Now, if you're a voeffrey, how do you get yourself back in this game?
It's gonna be tough. He's afraid of dying. It looks like he's gonna have to like play really defensively to try and stay in this. There's also the Doomsayer out was a possibility there.
Just go for the YOLO Doomsayer off of off the Pilot Shredder here. Just hope that's our way into the game. But it looks like he's gonna actually try to play some defense here.
Yeah, he's gonna swipe the Shredder and then Living Roots whatever comes out of it, or Living Roots the Darnassus.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not even Living Roots. So
he's gonna hero power and gain a life here. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like the combo is likely to kill him here. So,
yeah, I have a feeling he's gonna be able to cobble enough damage to get through here.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about being a little defensive. This is why. With Druid, you're always on the clock, whether they have minions in play or not. You're always worried about Force of Nature Savage Roar. So anytime they get you down to a low life total, around 14 is what the combo does, but every other minion adds just so much power to it.
Yeah, definitely. Much
damage
coming in.
Seems like we saw a pretty standard Druid game there. The person with, the early mana accelerant got out to an early lead and just was able to kind of capitalize from there.
Well, actually, crimzig is the one with the Innervate.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I had it backwards.
So, yeah, he had the early mana lead, but he drew double Azure Drake as his mid-game minions, which made him slow down enough for voeffrey to have an opportunity to take the board back. And then voeffrey started taking the board back, but then crimzig had the Dr. Boom on 7, and voeffrey didn't have the answer to the Dr. Boom on 7. The Boombots went favorably for him, and then he had the combo to follow up behind the lead that gave him. But yeah, it was pretty back and forth there, a lot in the middle game.
Yeah, he even had the big game hunter to kind of, counter the other Dr. Boom that ended up never getting played during that game. So yeah, great draw from him. Awesome back and forth game between Druid there. Love seeing that. I love seeing back and forth games. Never a fan of the ones that just snowball out of control from like turn 2 and end on like turn 8. Those aren't really fun. I like to see some back and forth from these guys. And so with Druid being out of the way and you saw your opponent lead on Druid, do you have like a read on what's going to happen here in the match? If you're on one side or the other. Do you have a idea of where you want to go to maybe like corner one of his decks that's remaining?
If I had gotten my Druid out just now, I think I would open up with Patron. Just get Druid and Patron both out of the way. Those are the tier 1 decks right now. You're probably most confident with them since been playing them so much, and then try and finish with the third deck is what I like to do. But it's kind of up to preference with Conquest. You got to win with all 3 either way, so it doesn't usually matter too much. With Druid away, so we have crimzig won that match, so crimzig's Druid's done, and crimzig's the one with Warlock. So he doesn't. So if it was the other way around, and voeffrey was the one with the Warlock, and knew crimzig couldn't play Druid, I might try and get the Warlock out there so you can just make sure the Patron Warrior doesn't get play. Right,
that's actually a really good strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for voeffrey to get this Mage out, because the Mage was really looking to try and hit the Druid from crimzig. So now that crimzig's Druid is through, it's going to be pretty tricky for voeffrey to try and get a win with Mage.
Yeah, I find that when you have Mage in your lineup, especially if it's something like the Tempo Mage deck, I find that's like one of the hardest ones to have in your lineup, because if you don't get the Druid matchup, it can be kind of rough in some other situations. And I like to lead off with Mage there if I have it in my lineup, because so many people lead off of Druid. It just seems to be one of the most, like, it's Druid or Patron Warrior almost always for me when I watch these. And Druid's just such a safe deck. There's not a lot of decks that it has really bad matchups. It seems to be, fair to fine against everything. It has draws that just always win. The Tempo Mage does pretty well against it, so if everybody's going to be leading off with Druid, I think I would like to lead off with Tempo Mage.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to do it. So maybe it's not a Tempo Mage, maybe it's a Freeze Mage variant or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. We haven't seen a lot of Freeze Mage in tournament play recently. What do you think is behind that?
I mean, everybody's playing Patron and Druid. Why would you play Freeze Mage?
Yes.
That sounds crazy. But if you made it this far with Freeze Mage, maybe it's sort of unique build or something. Maybe it's a Mech Mage even.
Maybe Grinder Mage, because that deck can actually beat Patron pretty well if they're not familiar with the matchup.
Yeah,
You know, maybe some like Echo of Medivh, some Frost Giants, you know, some new cards maybe. Here's hoping.
We have the matchups submitted now, and we have Crim with the Warrior and voeffrey with the Druid. So voeffrey queuing back up Druid and Crim switching to the Warrior, probably Patron Warrior.
Yep, and this is actually a pretty good matchup, I find, for both sides. I find that Druid, you know, a lot of people say it's a little bit favored in this matchup against Patron Warrior. It has a lot of big, resilient, quick threats, you know, can actually out mana in the Warrior deck, and it's hard to keep up with Patron Warrior and draw power, but, you know, you do have some in the deck. But
yeah.
I think it matters how good the Patron player is and how familiar they are with the match. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. And also, there's just a point usually where Druid has a window to kill the Patron Warrior player. So Druid's going to get combo on 9, hopefully, or around 9, because Patron Warrior takes a little bit to get started. They take a little time to start clearing the Druid minions and get rid of them all. So if you can hold an Innervate for combo, you generally have a minion on the field at turn 7 and 8 as Druid. And if you can get the combo off with that one extra minion there, it's just that extra little bit of damage is usually enough to finish off the Patron Warrior player. Or if you could just have the combo on 9 is just really important, because as soon as Warrior starts stabilizing with Patrons, getting those Armor Smiths out, they can heal right out of range. But till then, there's fair game to get killed by the Druid combo. Did we lose Tannon?
No, I'm still here. I for some reason, no, I got a message saying that they could hear me, but they couldn't hear you. So that's what I was worried about. Sorry, I was not checking that. Sorry.
There was some audio error for the first 10 minutes of the stream where we were talking to each other and just talking about the tournament and stuff. And I guess they couldn't hear me for that entire 10 minutes, and we didn't get to hear about it until after the delay was done.
All right, that's not important. You were just the one saying all the detail. No big deal.
Yeah. So all I hear is you asking questions, and then they can't hear my response to the questions.
All right. So anyway, back to this game. It does look like it is actually Patron Warrior, and it just looks like the typical Patron Warrior. And these Living Ruins are going to come out early once they get some damage in. What do you think about this play?
I mean, you gotta kill Patron Warrior before they kill you.
Yeah.
Very important to put pressure on them. But at the same time, Living Roots is such a crucial tool that you can use to the other game plan of Druid, which is removing all the patrons and just fatiguing the Patron Warrior. That's actually a valid strategy for Druid. So he's committed right now with this hand. He's like, all right, by playing these Living Roots turn 1, I'm committed to killing the Patron Warrior, and that's the game plan he's gonna stick with, I'm guessing.
Yeah, two things after what you just said. I've actually seen that happen where a Druid has run Patron Warrior out of all of their threats and fatigued them. That seems like a pretty hard thing to do if it's not something you've practiced or like something you've really thought about. Seems like a very deep in-depth line, but definitely doable. I've seen it done. But I've heard Zalay talk about the matchups against Patron a lot. He's considered one of the better Patron players in the world, and I get to talk to him a lot about it. And he says just the best way to beat Patron is to just run it down. Like you just have to be super aggressive against them, make them use their whirlwinds and stuff defensively, and they can't use them offensively. Then that's one of the best ways to play against it. Sometimes you see players hold back a little bit because they're like, oh, I don't want their Frothing Berserker to get too big, or I don't want them to have too much stuff to eat patrons, and sometimes you just can't afford to hold back like that.
Yeah, and that's the approach we're seeing here from voeffrey. But unfortunately for him, crimzig has all the answers, including Armor Smith, and then right into Cruel Taskmaster, just clean up these Living Roots. So even though voeffrey's playing as aggressively as possible, he still finds himself behind on board.
And just one of the turn 3s you never want to see if you're the Druid player. Just hero power and pass. Yeah, you don't usually have a lot of plays on turn 3. You have Shade, but hopefully you had some mana ramp in there somewhere, and you could, playing Piloted Shredder on 3. That's what your deck is built to do.
Yeah, exactly. So he misses all of the mana acceleration and is in a terrible spot. We see Frothing Berserker come down from crimzig. I like this play a lot. In this matchup, as the Patron Warrior player, Frothing Berserker isn't your win condition. Your win condition is making a bunch of patrons, so just using it to make your Druid opponent forced to do things to interact with you is very solid.
Yeah, your win condition is making a bunch of patrons, because Druid doesn't have such an easy time of just clearing out entire boards. Their AoE effects, which is swipe, not so good against the card for a patron. It doesn't actually do the job you want it to do. Plus, we've seen a lot of players make this play, I'm using quotations here, the tempo Frothing Berserker play, just getting it out there. But I like this play. As you said, it's not your your normal win condition, but it can actually just run away with this game. You know, a little bit of an unfortunate fall here. You got a light well. Would have liked to see maybe a creature with power here, but you know, not the end of the world.
Yeah, voeffrey's definitely hurting on the back end of this. His opponent has a huge board, a Deathbite ready, and patrons can come down next turn. And he's got a Druid of the Claw.
Yeah,
now,
this is...
You charge it into the final part.
Yeah, you have to charge here and trade off. For Walker here. If you set up just a taunt here, I mean, just so many things can go wrong for you this turn. He got a Rage card here in Battle Rage, but not exactly the one he wanted. Inner Rage would have been a lot better, you know, making a ton of Grim Patrons on this turn. But since he has the second Grim Patron in his hand, I got to believe we're going to see him just like kind of push here.
I don't know. At the same time, like, pushing is good. You put on a lot of pressure, but he doesn't have the most pressure-oriented hand with follow-up to it. And his opponent could probably answer 2 patrons. We've seen the Wrath and the Living Roots, though, which makes it a little harder. Yeah, but at the same time, it's really YOLO, and you're wasting your entire Deathbite charge just going face. Yeah,
I guess that's kind of true. You could also wait for a bigger turn with Battle Rage and Grim Patron, maybe on turn 7. You know, just get some more minions out there, because like a lot of the minions your opponent's gonna be playing in these turns are gonna be something like Azure Drake or something like Emperor Thaurissan. So you don't just get in 4 damage; you can actually take a card away from him too.
Yeah, this is a much better turn for using the Patron, because now you're swinging, you're damaging your Gnomish Inventor, which can help with Battle Rage value in next turns, and you're taking out a minion. I would love to see the Patron come down this turn now that the value's been generated. But at the same time, I don't mind seeing Armorsmith and then Ghoul, and then swing, and then draw 5 cards. There's a lot of good lines here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is what makes Patron just so good and so hard to beat. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about what you'd have to do to make the deck more, using the word fair, you know, like kind of nerfing it. And some people say that Battle Rage is actually one of the problems. You know, a lot of people think easy fix just Warsong Commander, but you know, maybe if you take Warsong Commander out of the deck, the inconsistencies take away how good Battle Rage is. Maybe it just wouldn't be as good, but 2 mana to draw 2 to 5 cards is probably a little too good for Hearthstone.
Yeah, and now voeffrey's stuck here in the decision if he wants to play Dr. Boom on turn 7 or not. And it looks like the Patron pressure may make him unable to do so, but he does conveniently have a way to kill both of the patrons.
Yeah, he has a clear here. He can Keeper of the Grove plus Wrath here to take care of these patrons. And, you know, he's got to think, I've already seen a Frothing Berserker. I've already seen a Patron. This has got to be pretty good for me, right? You know, maybe this guy has a Battle Rage here, but hopefully he doesn't have any more of the finishing pieces here.
Yeah, well, this Battle Rage is going to be huge now that those minions were able to get damage. That's going to be 3 cards drawn for Crimzig, and that's definitely going to start drawing him towards his Emperor effects and his other combos to make huge patron plays.
Yeah, so I think at this point, is that what he's looking for? He's looking for something like Emperor Thaurissan to try to set up the, you know, the 1-turn OTK kill, most likely.
Yeah, Emperor Thaurissan helps a lot with just making patrons. He also needs, like, Warsong Commander can be pretty useful to help clear off a lot of the Druid pressure. Definitely helps to kill Dr. Boom. If you have the patron Warsong Commander, can actually just take down Dr. Boom by itself while the second Battle Rage is drawn. But if he uses it, he'd actually overdraw. So he's going to go with the Acolyte of Pain instead.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about earlier about, you know, you need to pressure for your deck. You need to be pressuring against Patron, because if you just have it play out like this, where they're not under any pressure, they can kind of just, you know, draw a few cards here or there, progress their board, get a little more mana, and just set up to have these giant turns, and you're playing right into their game plan.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got the Boombots down and the Dr. Boom, so he's got somewhat of a reasonable board. He's hoping that some of it could stick and he could top deck Force of Nature and maybe get a cheesy win out of here, but...
Let's say he does have the Savage Roar here, so if he gets, you know, if this Dr. Boom connects, Savage Roar and Force of Nature is going to be lethal here.
Yeah, but with that Execute in Crimzig's hand, I find it unlikely this Dr. Boom's sticking around to go face. Yeah, Crimzig just has all the answers, man.
Crimzig's draw this game has been just absolutely great, and he's, you know, he's found ways to facilitate even more draw here, like even running in here, getting an extra card, maybe picking up another extra card off the Boombot, but...
Yeah, he played extra safe there, trading in the Gnomish into the Dr. Boom first, just to make sure that it didn't accidentally get hit for 4 by Boombots and he was left with no way to execute Dr. Boom. You see a Dread Corsair in the hand too, kind of a bit of different tech for Patron.
Yeah, this is something we, you know, this was in all the Patron lists, I think, first came out or when it first started getting really popular. And oh, look, he even did actually top deck the Force Nature. Wow.
Like, can he lethal if the Boombot rolls face 4? No. He's one off if the Boombot rolls face for 4, so he has 0% chance for lethal. But if the Boombot rolled face for 5,
we can somehow get a bug in here and get the 5th damage.
Yeah. Almost opportunities. You got to be pretty scared looking down that board of the Armorsmith, Accolade of Pain, and Dread Corsair with the Deathbite up. You have to feel like there's been so many cards drawn from the Patron that some sort of Patron combo is coming soon.
Yeah.
But what can you really do about it?
Yeah, I think in this situation, it's like you said, you just have to know that I'm probably dead, and there's not a lot of things I can do about it, like playing around it. So what play can win me the game? You know, I have Force of Nature and Savage Roar. What can I do to get myself in a position to win next turn? You know, do I need to Keeper and get in some damage here, or do I need to Ancient of Lore, try to draw some cards, maybe hit Innervate into Shade and have that carry me, you know, next turn with so much extra damage?
Yeah, I like going for the draw here over going for like some sort of heal. You feel pretty dead at 17 health against what the Patron Warrior has and how much mana he has and how much he's drawn, but still taking the heal, running in the YOLO Boombot to try and clear.
I feel pretty dead at like 40 against this deck. So, yeah, 17, 18, definitely a little bit worried on voeffrey's side of the board here. But, you know, he's got to believe that you have to believe that you're not out of it just yet and play to those outs. You know, you have to give yourself a chance to win. You can't just give up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have to do it that way. Wow, we're going to see the Emperor come down in this hand maybe, or we're going to see a lot of Patrons. Either way, it is not looking good for voeffrey.
Yeah, I think either option is actually really good here.
Yeah.
Just as long as you can make sure you don't die to combo. I think that's the main thing that has to be going through crimzig's mind right now. How do I lose this game from here? You know, I'm in such a dominant board position. My hand is great here. How do I lose? And I think that's the most important thing to worry about.
I must choose.
Yeah, and I can't find a way that he can lose. I feel like as long as he plays any combination of the cards in his hand, he'll be okay.
Yeah, there's no crazy Innervate shenanigans going on voeffrey's side. You know, if he had something like double Innervate, had an Emperor go off on Force of Natures and Savage Roars, we could maybe see like a 40 out of nowhere. But yeah, there's actually nothing like that lurking in voeffrey's hand. So it's like possibly get another game here.
He's not technically dead yet, because Crimzig doesn't have the Warsong Commander to really finish the job. So if he is able to Emperor here, and this is going to be like far out if he doesn't die, but he could potentially Emperor here, and then like, is there a way he can set up lethal if he gets the other Savage Roar for the 22 damage? His opponent is at 22 life, so you would need to do 2 damage this turn and get through that taunt while Emperoring.
That's a pretty tall order.
Yeah.
I mean, because like his crimzig is showing 13 right now, and you're at 14. It can maybe go up to 15 here. So yeah, he's gonna have to get a card deeper into his deck and maybe just find some answers from here.
Yeah.
What do you think he's looking for here? Well, get his mana back. There's the 2 mana you just spent to draw a card.
Wait, what if he Emperors and then he has the Innervate and he draws Force of Nature? Could he do Force Roar? Is that possible?
So it makes this 5, this 2, 7.
No, he wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, you're just short. Yeah, I would say that is a play line actually that could have been there, but he's going to be 1 short of that. So he's just going to leave the Emperor. Maybe this is a line that can actually win it for him. He gets through the taunt and he has the Emperor left here. You know, if your opponent's hand, I mean, I'm trying to find the 7, 8 cards. I'm trying to find a 7 or 8 card hand that can't win from this position, and I can't think of many.
Well, he doesn't. Crimzig does not have lethal yet.
Right, he doesn't have Warsong yet.
Both Warsongs are in the bottom 6 cards of his deck, but he is going to try and search for him.
He's got a pretty good chance of drawing one here, and that looks like a Warsong Commander to me.
Yeah, so that's going to be it right here.
Picks up an Inner Rage here. Is going to be able to pull off, you know, a lot of crazy stuff this turn, get through a ton of damage. Doesn't even need to really even do anything crazy here. I mean, he's got way more than enough to kill him.
Yeah. Now we're going to see what kind of player Crimzig is, if he chooses to BM or not here, or if he's just a normal mannered player.
I have a feeling he's a normal mannered player. I have a feeling this Frothing Berserker's already been queued up in an attack. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
I don't think
he could have drawn his entire deck and been all flashy. But...
Yeah, he could have definitely done a lot of crazy stuff there, but at the end of the day, these guys have played, what, 12 rounds already? This is like their 13th round, if I remember right. And, I mean, you really want to beat up somebody at the end of a tournament that's been this long.
I guess
I
not.
mean,
You develop respect for other players
Right.
as you play in the same tournament with them for so long. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Do you really want to do that to your opponent and possibly, your first, televised event?
Mm-hmm. So crimzig up 2-0. 2-0.
What's the deck that he has left? Is he the dragon
Warlock.
Not the dragon one, the demon one, yeah.
Yeah, Demon Henlock is left. So, and then voeffrey has all 3 of his classes remaining. You think he's gonna stick with the Druid that he's been playing, or switch it up maybe?
If you know your opponent has Warlock, how do you usually approach this? Because I've seen you actually do some reverse sweeps in your career. Like, how do you usually approach this when you know what deck they're playing last? Like, you have a pretty good idea of exactly what they're going to be doing. Do you play your best matchup first? Do you play your worst matchup first?
I like playing my best matchup first. I like just trying to grind them out, basically. A lot of players can get fatigued at the end of a best-of-5 series or whatever, or feel super confident and think they've wrapped it all up. And then you can just slowly work your way into it by taking your best matchup and then your next best matchup and then just maximizing the amount of time that you're playing for. Play nice and slow, stay focused. So I imagine he stays with Druid.
Yeah, I really like the idea of just staying with your best matchup first. Get a win on the board, get some confidence going, get a little bit of momentum, and then if you win your next game, it actually feels like all the pressure is back on your opponent again in the fight, because they're like, hey, I was up 2-0 and now I have a chance to lose this match, and maybe the pressure gets to him a little bit. I like that.
And voeffrey finally found his wild growth, but unfortunately for him, he found too many of them.
So how do you keep? What would you do here? Would you just keep Innervate, Shade, and 1 wild growth here?
Oh, he already mulliganed, man.
This is yeah. Sorry, I was mine's a little behind. I apologize. So I mean, the extra wild growth maybe gonna a card that might not help him out this game, but you never know. Maybe you can just ramp into like some 6 drops super early and have it be good enough. Yeah,
especially if you find Dr. Boom or Ancient Allure really fast, is going to be insane. And the Drakes early are really good with the fast wild growths. And just against Handlock and, well, Demon Handlock, this matchup specifically, being able to combo really early is really strong because the deck tends to tap itself down to low health values, then put up taunts, then heal. So if you can get them in that midpoint before they've put up taunts, it's going to be really sweet.
All right, hear me out. Do you just definitely coin wild growth, Innervate wild growth, right?
That would give him 4 mana next turn.
Yeah,
and then he'd play Shade. I don't know.
How do you think you should sequence this hand? I find that these hands can be very difficult to sequence sometimes correctly, because you want to make sure that you curve out. You have a 3-drop and a 5-drop with an Innervate, but you have 2 wild growths.
Since he has the Drake, I'd feel pretty okay holding on to the Innervate. Because, like, you're going to reload your hand, you're going to have Innervate to do other things. Usually getting too much early tempo in this game doesn't matter that much, because you're just going to put them in Molten range too fast before you can actually combo them.
Mm-hmm.
So it usually ends up biting you in the ass if you try and do it that way. So I kind of like holding on to the Innervate for those potential 7-drops, the Ancient Allures, maybe Ancient Wars, or early combo kills, and then just, like, following the curve roughly from there.
Yeah, I like that too as well.
Because, like, you get a Shade down now, it starts growing, sure, but then eventually it just gets Shadow Flamed off, and you didn't really accomplish too much. But if you just spend your time doing the 2 wild growths and then draw cards behind it and play the slow game, I think you're more favored in that, and you can use the Innervate for bigger value later. And it looks like he's going to hold on to it.
Yeah, maybe even hold on to the Innervate for, one of those turns where you double combo someone. I've, seen some players holding on to Innervates for super long because they realize, me being able to do 14 in 1 turn isn't going to be enough because they have these 8/8 taunts or 2 9/9 taunts with the defender, and I just need to hold on that turn where I can make 6 power minions instead, 4 power minions.
Yeah, definitely. So crimzig just tapping away. He's got the Mountain Giant now for next turn. That was a lucky pickup. So he's all set to go for his next turn. Wow, the Druid double keeper is insanely strong to deal with those Twilight Drakes and those Void Callers.
Yeah, I find Keeper of the Grove is definitely... It's at its best when you draw it early against this deck or like the aggro decks. But I mean, I can't tell you how bad it feels when you're playing an aggro deck and they Innervate out a Keeper when like your first play. I just feel like I can't ever win from that point.
Yeah, and now crimzig, he's got 2 options here. He can go with the Void Caller with no Demon, or he can just YOLO out the Mountain Giant and hope there's no Big Game Hunter. But a Big Game Hunter at this point generally spells disaster. But with no Demon, it feels like he's kind of forced to make this line.
Yeah, I was gonna say with no demon, I feel like we're gonna see him do a giant here, and that's actually the play that he goes for. And if you're voeffrey, how do you play it from here? Like, what's your line going from here? How do you win the game from this 8/8 coming to play, and you don't have a clean answer to it, man?
I think you just ignore it. I think he's just gonna drop the Drake and just ignore it. He's got his own game plan here with the Innervate and the possible combo coming in. He's just hoping to try and cycle towards that combo and get that combo off as fast as possible with his concealed shade on the field. He has almost enough damage already if he's able to find the combo.
Yeah, and you got to believe that crimzig is probably going to at least tap one more time in this game, you know, give you 2 more life. You know, especially if he's playing Molten Giants in his deck, he's going to be wanting to be doing that.
What to do?
Yep. He's debating whether or not he wants to use this Living Roots here to either deal some damage to that Giant. He could kill the Giant if he wants.
Time waits for no one.
With the Innervate hero power.
Oh yeah, use attack into it, use Living Roots, and then Innervate out your hero power to finish it off. That'd be taking a lot of damage to the face here.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta get rid of it eventually, right? It can't just be there forever.
Yeah, it's gonna hit you for 8 one way or the other. You can make it on your own terms, or you can let your opponent do it.
crimzig can't quite do the Watcher Shadow Flame. Would be like a dream clear here. So the Shade's actually gonna get out of Watcher Shadow Flame range for next turn.
Okay, that would have been a back-breaking turn.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. To see the Watcher come down this turn, yeah, no real reason to taunt yet. Even if his opponent does have Innervate combo, voeffrey is not able to deal 25 to crimzig.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of time here. You know, you've got an anti-kill bot in your hand as well, so you have some recovery. So, yeah, no need to rush the taunt yet.
Mm-hmm. Piloted Shredder picked up for voeffrey. Piloted Shredder is usually a really annoying card for Handlock to deal with because it's just so sticky and sticks around for that combo. Oh, we see a Keeper possibly coming out this turn. It looks like he is trying to kill the Giant. Gonna Keeper hero power trade it? Wow, giving up the Shade for the Giant.
Yeah, do you think there's ever a chance? I don't know if you might trade this Living Roots for it and just play a Darnassus behind here. And just these minions, and he's holding on to Innervate and maybe be able to combo out from here. Oh, he's gonna combo out. He's gonna Innervate out Piloted Shredder here. Okay, I like this.
Yeah, he's got, you know. Yeah, I like this better. He's got neither combo piece, so he just needs to get things on the field. He's not really saving that Innervate for anything anymore since he has enough mana to play all of the biggest cards in his deck. So unfortunately, the gamble of holding on to the Innervate for him did not work out, as he just didn't draw any of his high-cost cards or combo.
Yeah, but I do like seeing him find a use for Innervate here. You know, it's a good play from him, finding some kind of good play for his card here, because as we said, you know, there's opportunity to maybe hold on to it for some like late game big time burst, but with none of those cards in your hand, that situation, you know, you have 20 cards left in your deck, and you're going to need to get 2 or 3 of specific ones from that situation for it to come up, and just finding some good use for Innervate, like a good tempo turn, that's good use of it from him.
Yeah, and the second Mountain Giant comes down. That's a pretty huge draw for crimzig, so he's in a pretty solid position, and voeffrey still does not have a way to efficiently deal with Mountain Giants. Maybe even seeing some sort of like Savage Roar card. That's going to throw away his entire board. He values the Savage Roar card that highly, and the Shredder drop is pretty weak here.
Yeah, hey, TGT card. We're seeing some new cards. Got a new card, man. TGT is out.
Wow, TGT tournament.
Yeah. I mean, we have seen Darnassus, I guess, but I actually like the little Lance Carrier guy. It's a card I think might see its day at some point in time. You know, this card, I actually played it quite a bit last season, but I ended up realizing it's, you know, it's an okay card. It fills a role.
The story of TGT.
Yeah, all the cards fill a role. That's about it.
Yeah, it's okay.
So if you're voeffrey, how do you feel here? Your opponent's got, you know, a full hand here. You've got a bunch of 2 and 1 power minions in play with just a Savage Roar in your hand. What are you like hoping for here? That he just plays a Dr. Boob and you top deck Force of Nature? Is that like your best hope for a win?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much the dream.
Yeah.
So that would be a solid amount of damage coming in, but on crimzig's side.
Oh boy, I think
I was gonna say he's probably afraid of that, but he does not care.
And probably the worst draw left in voeffrey's deck is, you know, the last Innervate here. Nothing to really use with it. The card actually just does nothing this turn.
crimzig made the power play that turn, and he's like,
Yeah.
odds are my opponent's not going to top deck the combo. Odds are in my favor that if I play this Dr. Boom, I'm not going to get punished, and it's the strongest play on the board for this turn. So let's just take the statistically optimal play.
Yeah, I mean, your opponent has one card left. You know, it has to be Savage Roar or Force of Nature, and then the next card has to be the exact other one. So I like this play. And also, I mean, it's a lot easier to make those plays when you're up 2-0 in your series. You know, you're not fighting for your life. If you're like, all right, if he randomly has exactly what he needs, I might get one of the next two.
And then voeffrey realizes he cannot contest with the board development from crimzig, so he's just going to try and set up his own potential lethal with the top deck.
That was a good first boom bot for him and a good second boom bot for him too. I mean, he takes damage here, but he gets to keep his board around. That's really important for his chances to win here with Savage Roar.
Yeah, he's got a shot for sure. But crimzig, now that he's got that 7/7 in play, I'm going to imagine he's going to take some safe lines here because why not, right? He's just so far ahead on board.
You're definitely going to be seeing some taunting, and in Crimzig's deck, this is something to be noting. He's playing the Doomguard version. You know, we've seen some people lately. I've seen some people lately changing Doomguard to maybe a different demon here or there, but that's like it's been pretty standard to have Doomguard in this deck.
Yeah, pretty standard. We have occasionally seen like fearsome Doomguard.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some. I mean, my former roommate actually, I think, finished 18th in this tournament. He had the same record as some people who top 16th, and he had fearsome Doomguard in his deck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had fearsome Doomguard, or what's the name of the 6/6 one that deals the damage to everything when it comes into play?
Dread Infernal, yeah.
Yeah, he's been trying out Dread Infernal as well too. It seems pretty good in the Paladin.
Yeah, definitely consider helping out against Paladin, but Emperor Thorson is not quite good enough. Crimzig is gonna take the series 3-0.
Yeah, just the Doomguard here. I mean, there's almost no way he could lose from this point. I mean, he had a couple different ways to do the lethal this turn. He's going to do it with a little bit of flurry here and the Doomguard. And that's a quick 3-0 from Crimzig here. A good showing in the tournament from voeffrey. Gotta applaud him making it all the way here to the top 8. Gigantic field that we had in this open tournament.
1,000 people.
Yeah, 1,000 people. Great showing from voeffrey here, but Crimzig is going to take it down. Crimzig, a top 100 legend player right now too.
Yeah,
he's having a good month.
Yeah, been really good for him. All right, let's cut to a 5-minute break before we get into the next match, and the next match begin then.